Black CEO removed from first class minutes later, she grounds a $700M empire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Ma'am, this seat isn't for you. The words sliced through the low hum of boarding chatter. It wasn't shouted, but the tone was sharp enough to turn heads. The flight attendant stood firm, one hand on her hip, the other pointing at the placard above the seat. 1A, first class. The woman she was speaking to, Amara Lewis, didn't look up right away. She sat gracefully, legs crossed, phone in one hand, boarding pass in the other. Her posture didn't waver. Her eyes didn't rise to meet the challenge. "Excuse me?" she asked, voice calm, silk over steel. The attendant took a half step forward, lowering her voice but not her attitude. "I said, this seat is for our priority passengers. Business class starts 3 rows back." From across the aisle, a man in a tailored gray suit smirked, shaking his head as if to confirm what everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to say. "Maybe she got confused," he said under his breath. The smirk widened when the attendant didn't correct him. Amara exhaled quietly, eyes still on her phone. "My name is on that seat." She handed over the boarding pass without looking. Her voice was unbothered, too calm for the chaos around her. The attendant took the pass, glanced at it, then frowned. "This can't be right." "It usually is," Amara replied. People began to glance over their shoulders now, pretending not to listen but leaning in anyway. A whisper rippled through the aisle. A black woman in first class? The kind of disbelief that hides behind polite curiosity. The man in the gray suit chuckled, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Come on, sweetheart, just let them handle it. You'll make the flight late." That word sweetheart landed like a slap wrapped in charm. Amara finally looked up. Her eyes met his. There was no fire in them, no tremor, just that stillness that comes before a storm. "Do you always talk to strangers like that?" she asked softly. "Or do I just make you uncomfortable?" The laughter around him died. The attendant's radio crackled. "Cabin 1, confirmed seating issue." She pressed the mic to her lips. "Possible misbooking, passenger in 1A doesn't match manifest." Amara tilted her head slightly. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Her tone wasn't angry. It was a warning wrapped in composure. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here." Now, back to Amara. The attendant crossed her arms. "Ma'am, I need you to move to economy." Amara didn't flinch. "I need you to check your system again." For a second, silence blanketed the cabin, that awkward, suspended kind of quiet, where everyone waits to see who folds first. The pilot glanced back from the cockpit door, curiosity etched into his face. Amara didn't move, didn't raise her voice, because she didn't need to. She simply lifted her phone, opened a secure app, and tapped one command. A soft vibration buzzed through her hand. Outside, the gate lights flickered. Inside, the flight attendant's headset beeped, then went dead. She blinked, confused. "That's strange." Amara leaned back against the seat, eyes steady, a faint smile ghosting her lips. The seat wasn't the only thing she owned on this plane. The air in the cabin changed. Not loud, not sudden, just heavier. The attendant still held Amara's boarding pass, her hand tightening around it as if paper could anchor authority. The man in the gray suit watched, smirking like someone who knew the rules were on his side. Amara didn't move, didn't argue. She simply looked ahead through the narrow gap between the headrests, out toward the small oval window where daylight poured in like judgment. The attendant finally exhaled, annoyed. "I don't know how this happened, but this seat is reserved for a different tier of passengers. You'll need to relocate." "Different tier?" Amara's tone was soft, deliberate. "Does that tier have a color?" The attendant froze. The man's smirk faltered. Before anyone could respond, Amara gently retrieved her boarding pass from the attendant's hand. "Don't worry," she said evenly. "I'll make sure your system stops making this mistake again." The pilot glanced back from the cockpit. He didn't say a word, just raised an eyebrow at the scene and closed the door again. silence. A slow, thick kind of silence that travels faster than sound. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Amara. Her phone buzzed quietly on her lap. One message appeared. Flight 739, registered under Skylink systems. All nodes active. She slid her thumb across the screen, opened a secure app labeled Aurelia Command, and typed a single phrase. Ground audit in progress. Nothing dramatic happened. No flashing lights, no alarms. But somewhere unseen and unhurried, a protocol began. Amara folded her hands, calm. The attendant was still standing there, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, discomfort creeping into her voice. Look, I'm just trying to do my job. Amara turned to her fully now. Her gaze was steady, not cruel. Then do it with respect. That line landed heavier than the boarding pass ever could. The man in the gray suit laughed again, but it sounded thinner this time. You people always make it about respect. It's just a seat. Amara smiled faintly. You're right. It is just a seat. But it's also a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. The attendant swallowed. She didn't know what to say. A few rows back, a woman whispered to her husband, "She's handling this better than I ever could." Her husband nodded slowly. That's not handling. That's control. Outside, a ground engineer stepped out from under the wing, talking into his headset. Tower? We're getting a remote systems ping. You seeing that? Copy, the tower replied. Looks like an internal compliance check. Hold departure until cleared. Inside, Amara's phone buzzed again. Audit initiated. Flight delay confirmed. She didn't look at it, didn't need to. The attendant's radio beeped. Ma'am, a voice crackled. Ground controls requesting hold position for a quick check. The attendant frowned, confused. That's odd. We were clear a minute ago. This layens of that be signat wise. This later of the self-fi is one. Amara's voice was barely above a whisper. Maybe the system's just learning to double-check itself. The attendant stared at her, as if realizing too late that this wasn't an ordinary passenger. The engines quieted to an idle hum. The lights dimmed slightly. The pilot stepped out again, confusion etched on his face. What's going on? Someone asked aloud. Amara didn't answer. She simply adjusted her cuff, leaned back into her seat, and closed her eyes. The storm had already started. It just hadn't made noise yet. The cabin lights had steadied, but the silence was unnatural now, stretched thin, like the moment between lightning and thunder. Passengers whispered. Attendants exchanged nervous glances. And through it all, Amara Lewis sat in absolute stillness. The captain reappeared from the cockpit, one hand on his earpiece. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor delay due to a system recalibration, he announced, voice calm but taut. He avoided looking at Amara, but everyone else did. The man in the gray suit leaned forward. You see what happens when people don't follow the rules? He muttered, half to himself, half to her. Amara didn't look at him. She just breathed in slowly, the faintest trace of a smile ghosting her lips, not arrogance, but knowledge. Because this wasn't a coincidence. It was a response. While the cabin waited in uncertainty, her mind drifted to the story that had brought her here, one that no one on this flight knew. 15 years earlier, a younger Amara stood in a hangar in Atlanta, oil stains on her palms, wearing a cheap mechanic's jumpsuit that didn't belong to her. It was borrowed from a coworker who thought she looked too polished for the role. Back then, she had applied for a junior engineer position at Skylink Aerospace, the same corporation that now ran this airline. Her interview lasted only 7 minutes. One executive, a man with a navy tie and a clipped accent, had smiled and said, "You're smart, Miss Lewis, but our clients expect a certain image." That image had no space for women like her. She never argued, never begged. She just walked out, spent 2 years designing independently, and eventually built Aurelia Aerotech, a startup that revolutionized aircraft diagnostics and safety automation. Her technology didn't just predict mechanical failures, it prevented them. By the time Skylink realized its value, it was too late. She owned half the market. Now, sitting in seat 1A, she thought about that moment, that man in the navy tie, and how irony had a strange way of flying in circles. Her company, Aurelia, provided the software currently holding this plane in place. Every sensor, every navigation command, every system beep was running through her code. The flight attendant approached again, voice more careful this time. "Ma'am, they're saying the system's waiting for a clearance from Aurelia Tech. Are you familiar with that company?" Amara turned, her tone composed. "Intimately," the attendant blinked. "You? You work for them?" Amara's gaze didn't waver. "No," she said. "I am them." The woman's lips parted, but no sound followed. Behind her, the man in the gray suit straightened up, suddenly unsure whether to look impressed or terrified. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe." These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now back to Amara. The captain's earpiece crackled again. "Sir, we've confirmed the delays from a Skylink compliance audit ordered by Aurelia." He glanced toward her seat, realization flickering across his face. Amara folded her phone closed and looked out the window, watching ground crews scatter like chess pieces waiting for a queen's next move. "Funny," she murmured, mostly to herself. "They always said I didn't fit their image. Turns out, I became the system they depend on." Outside, the engines idled quietly under a rising orange sun. Inside, no one dared to speak. For the first time since boarding, everyone in first class understood who was really in control, and it wasn't the pilot. The air inside the cabin felt tighter now, though the temperature hadn't changed. The passengers could sense something, authority shifting like gravity. The flight attendant stood stiff near the galley, avoiding Amara's eyes. The man in the gray suit had gone quiet, his earlier confidence shrinking into his seat. At the front, the captain reappeared. This time, his composure was gone. His voice, once steady, trembled under the weight of new information. "Miss Lewis," he began cautiously, "I've just spoken with operations. They confirmed an internal audit initiated by your company." "Aurelia Tech?" He hesitated, as if saying the name might change the outcome. "That's you, isn't it?" Amara looked up, calm, effortless. "That's correct." The attendant's eyes widened. Her breath caught in her throat. The captain nodded slowly, processing what that meant. The woman they had just humiliated controlled the systems that grounded their entire fleet. He cleared his throat. "I'd like to personally apologize on behalf of my crew." "We didn't realize," Amara interrupted softly. "You didn't need to realize who I am. You only needed to recognize what I am." The captain blinked, unsure whether she was angry or merciful. Amara set her phone on the tray table, the Aurelia emblem faintly glowing on the screen. "Tell me, Captain, if your system fails, who do you call?" He swallowed hard. "Aurelia Tech. And who do they call?" He paused. "You." She nodded, gaze level. "Then perhaps the next time your staff decides who belongs here, they should remember the woman who built the air they're flying through." The attendant stepped forward, tears pricking her eyes. "Miss Lewis, I never meant to offend you." Amara turned to her, voice steady. "You didn't offend me. You exposed yourself." The woman's lower lip trembled. "I'm so sorry." Amara studied her for a moment. Then, with a quiet exhale, said, "Keep your apology. Learn instead." The words hung in the air, not sharp, but surgical. They didn't wound, they corrected. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe." These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Amara. The captain pressed his earpiece again. "Operations says we can't resume departure until Aurelia lifts the hold." Amara tilted her head, thoughtful. "Then you'll wait." "May I ask, how long?" "As long as it takes to teach a lesson." Her tone was light, polite even, but everyone could feel the power vibrating beneath it. Outside the window, the runway lights flickered. Ground crew vehicles idled in still formation. Even the air traffic tower hesitated, waiting for clearance that could only come from her. Inside, whispers rippled down the aisle. Someone muttered, "She's the one who shut down the sky." The captain nodded once, quietly humbled. "I understand, Miss Lewis." She looked out the window, eyes catching the faint reflection of the flight attendant, still standing nearby, frozen in shame. "No," she said softly. "You don't. Not yet." Her phone buzzed again. Aurelia audit. 214 flights paused, awaiting authorization to release. She let the screen dim. "Ground them all," she murmured under her breath. And just like that, the hum of the engines faded to silence. The plane and the arrogance inside it was officially grounded. The sound of the engines fell to a whisper, then stopped altogether. The sudden quiet felt almost supernatural, an invisible hand pressing against the cabin, demanding stillness. No one moved. No one spoke. The captain's voice broke the silence first, faint through the overhead speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're currently experiencing a technical delay. Please remain seated." But the passengers could hear it in his tone. This wasn't a technical issue. This was something else. Something deliberate. Amara didn't look up. Her phone sat in her palm, its faint light reflecting in her eyes. On the screen, fleet status, 214 aircraft grounded, awaiting authorization. She scrolled, calm, then whispered two words only she could hear. "Cancel everything." Her thumb pressed the screen. The command executed instantly. Across the tarmac, lights dimmed. Engines stopped. Digital systems fell silent in perfect sync and Empire on pause. The captain stumbled back into the cabin. "Ma'am, operations says every flight under Skylink's registry just got locked out of the network." His voice cracked with disbelief. "They said it came from Aurelia headquarters." Amara didn't answer. She was still, completely still. The attendant finally found her voice. "Miss Lewis, please, if you could just—" Amara turned slowly, her eyes steady and cold, but not cruel. "Do you know what the hardest part of power is?" The attendant shook her head. "It's restraint," Amara said. "Knowing you could destroy someone and choosing not to." The woman's lips trembled. "I never meant—" "I know," Amara interrupted softly. "But your intent isn't what hurt me. Your assumption did." The attendant lowered her head. The man in the gray suit, the one who had mocked her, finally spoke up, voice unsteady. "You can't just shut down an airline." Amara looked at him. "I didn't shut it down. I just asked it to think." He blinked. "Think?" She leaned slightly toward him. "Machines don't assume. People do. That's why they obey when I tell them to stop." The cabin fell silent again. Even the air seemed to respect her. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here." Now, back to Amara. Her phone buzzed again, a secure call from Rachel Mendez, her operations director. "Ma'am," Rachel's voice came through, controlled but tense. "The audit command hit global. Skylink's board is demanding an explanation." Amara smiled faintly. "They'll have to wait. Sometimes silence is the only briefing they deserve." Rachel exhaled. "Should I prepare a statement?" "No," Amara replied. "Let the world guess first, then tell them the truth." "Yes, ma'am." She ended the call, leaned back, and closed her eyes for a moment. The hum of the cabin returned, faint but obedient. The captain stood at her side, hat in hand. "Miss Lewis, the board wants to know when this will end." Amara looked at him serene, steady. "When respect starts where it should have started." Outside, through the small oval window, the runway stretched endlessly, quiet aircraft frozen in formation under a sinking sun. Inside, the woman everyone tried to remove from first class now sat as the reason no one else could leave the ground. It wasn't vengeance, it was correction. And Amara Lewis, calm, poised, unflinching, had just reminded the sky who owned its silence. By now, the entire terminal was whispering her name. Gate agents spoke into radios, ground staff froze mid-task, and every departure screen across 3 airports flickered with the same red status. Grounded pending Aurelia authorization. Onboard Flight 739, the tension had shifted from disbelief to quiet awe. What started as a confrontation had become a revelation. The woman they dismissed now controlled the sky itself. Amara remained still in her seat, phone dark, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her silence was heavier than any announcement. The captain stood a few feet away, hat clutched to his chest, as if addressing royalty. "Miss Lewis, Skylink's headquarters is asking if you'll speak with their CEO directly." Amara looked up, her tone measured, polite. "He has my number." The pilot hesitated. "They say it's urgent." Her eyes lifted, calm but unyielding. "So was my dignity." He swallowed, nodded, and returned to the cockpit without another word. Across the aisle, the man in the gray suit shifted nervously, his bravado long gone. He finally muttered, "Look, I was out of line earlier. I didn't mean anything by it." Amara didn't even turn toward him. "You never do," she said. "That's the problem." He tried again. "I just thought that I didn't belong here," she finished for him. "You were right. I don't belong here. I belong above it." The words landed with the precision of a scalpel. No anger, just truth stripped bare. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Amara. Her phone buzzed again, a message from Rachel Mendez at Aurelia Operations. Audit complete. Network awaits release protocol. Skylink board requesting emergency meeting. Amara typed back one line. Prepare transcript of all internal correspondence involving Flight 739. Include every name that flagged passenger verification. She sent it, set the phone down, and looked out the window. The city below shimmered under the afternoon sun. Hundreds of aircraft frozen mid-schedule because one woman refused to be dismissed. The attendant returned, more timid now, a bottle of water trembling slightly in her hand. "Miss Lewis, would you like something to drink while we wait?" Amara studied her for a moment, then nodded once. "Yes, water is fine." As the attendant placed the glass on the tray, Amara added gently, "You're handling this better now." The woman blinked, unsure if it was forgiveness or instruction. "Thank you," she whispered. Amara took the glass, her reflection glimmering in the water's surface. "The hardest lessons," she said quietly, "are the ones we teach by example." A new alert flashed across her screen. Audit results. Multiple incidents of class-based denial logged under Skylink personnel. Amara smiled faintly. "There it is." And Sadi. Rachel's message followed seconds later. "They want to negotiate terms for system restoration." Amara's reply was immediate. "Not until they redefine who their priority passengers are." She locked her phone and set it aside. The captain stepped out again. "Operations confirmed that all flights remain suspended until you give clearance, Miss Lewis." Amara met his gaze. "Then let's make sure the lesson reaches altitude." Outside, the golden light of sunset spilled across the wings, turning metal into fire. Inside, no one dared breathe too loudly, because in that moment, everyone understood. This wasn't about delay or pride or revenge. It was an audit not of systems, but of arrogance. And it had just failed. By dusk, the world had caught on. Screens across airports, offices, and living rooms lit up with the same headline: Black CEO grounds $700M airline in silent protest. This was what did to getting ready down. News anchors stumbled over the facts, trying to sound informed. Analysts speculated about system hacks, government audits, and corporate sabotage. But the truth was simpler: a single command, issued by the woman they once told to move to economy. Inside the cabin, the passengers were glued to their phones. One of them whispered, "She's everywhere. Twitter, CNN, even Bloomberg." Another added quietly, "They're calling it the Amara effect." Amara sat still, the quiet center of a global storm. Her phone buzzed nonstop, but she ignored it. Rachel Mendez's name appeared again and again, messages she would read later. For now, she was content to let the world speak first. Across the aisle, the man in the gray suit glanced at her nervously, his voice breaking the silence. "You really did this? All of it?" Amara turned her head slightly, eyes calm. "Actions teach louder than outrage. Israsi action dates, never meant chops as well." He swallowed hard. "I didn't know who you were." She tilted her head. "And yet, you felt entitled to decide who I was." The man nodded slowly, shame replacing arrogance. The flight attendant approached once more, softer this time, her tone stripped of protocol. "Miss Lewis, headquarters has been trying to reach you. They said the board will issue a public apology tonight." Amara's voice was even. "An apology fixes a headline. I'm here for the culture that wrote it." The attendant hesitated. "Then what do you want them to do?" Amara looked out the window, watching the sunset reflect across the wing. "Learn and remember." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Amara. The captain's voice came over the intercom, uncertain but reverent. Ladies and gentlemen, this aircraft will remain grounded until further notice. Thank you for your patience. No one complained. Not anymore. Amara's phone vibrated again, this time with a video notification. The clip was already viral, the exact moment the flight attendant told her, "This seat isn't for you." Someone had filmed the entire exchange. Now the internet was watching. Millions of views in under an hour. Comments flooding in. She didn't yell. She didn't need to. Power looks like peace. Respect is the new turbulence. Amara opened the video for just a moment, then locked her screen. "They'll call it justice," she murmured, "but it's just truth on camera." Rachel called again. Amara answered this time. "Ma'am," Rachel said, her voice urgent. "Skylink's CEO wants a direct conversation. They're offering a settlement, full apology, public recognition, partnership extension." Amara's reply was steady. "Tell them partnerships require parity. Until they understand that, there's nothing to extend." Rachel hesitated. "They're panicking, Amara." "Good," Amara said softly. "Panic is how systems learn empathy." She ended the call and leaned back. Outside, the runway lights flickered in the twilight. The entire fleet of Skylink aircraft sat still, silver giants waiting for her permission to move. Inside, passengers stared at her not with suspicion, but with awe, realizing they were witnessing history. A mother whispered to her child, "That woman just stopped the sky." The little girl whispered back, "No, Mommy." She made it listen. Amara's reflection glowed faintly in the window, framed by the fading light. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to smile, because the world had finally stopped not to punish her, but to hear her. And somewhere, in that stillness, respect had learned to take flight. By sunrise, the entire aviation world was in recalibration. What had begun as one flight delay had now become a case study in dignity, power, and consequence. News anchors replayed the moment frame by frame, trying to decode the calm in Amara Lewis's eyes. Hashtags trended across platforms. Number grounded by grace, number respect takes flight, number Amara effect. Stock analysts speculated how a single command from her phone could freeze billions in airspace. But what none of them understood, what Amara understood perfectly, was that it was never about control. It was about course correction. Inside her glass-walled office at SkyShield headquarters, the morning light stretched across a skyline still trembling from the night before. Dozens of monitors glowed in synchronized blue, each displaying an image of the grounded fleet gradually lifting again. One by one, status lights shifted from amber to green. Rachel Mendez stood near the doorway, tablet in hand. "All flights are back online, ma'am. Systems are stable. And the airline has issued a full public apology direct from the CEO's desk." Amara didn't look up right away. She was reading something, the handwritten letter the flight attendant had slipped into her bag before disembarking. It began simply, "I was wrong." She read it twice, then folded it neatly. "Good," she said softly. "Awareness is always the beginning of repair." Rachel hesitated. "There's more. Skyline's board wants to meet in person. They're offering a partnership renewal exclusive, long-term, with equity options." Amara finally turned, expression unreadable. "They think this was about leverage." Rachel smiled faintly. "They think everything is." Amara walked toward the window, arms crossed, eyes tracing the distant trails of departing aircraft. "When I was 12, she said, my grandmother used to sit on the porch every evening and watch planes pass overhead. She'd point and say, 'One day, baby, you'll be inside one of those.' She never imagined I'd be the reason they moved at all." Silence settled between them, not the heavy kind, but the thoughtful one. "Schedule the meeting," Amara said finally, "and prepare the press response. I don't want this to be remembered as an act of punishment. I want it remembered as an act of precision." Rachel nodded. "Understood. One more thing, donations. You mentioned a foundation?" "Yes." Amara's voice softened. "Transfer all penalty fees and compensation from Skyline to the Amara Lewis Foundation for Women in Aviation. Every cent. Call it Project Altitude." Rachel smiled. "That's poetic." "It's symmetry," Amara replied. "When arrogance falls, opportunity should rise." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Amara. A knock at the door. The Skyline's CEO himself, Robert Kane, entered with his PR director trailing behind. His expensive smile was cracked at the edges. "Miss Lewis," he began, voice rehearsed, "I want to personally apologize for the unacceptable behavior on that flight. It doesn't reflect our company values." Amara gestured for him to sit. "Then perhaps it's time your values start reflecting the people you serve." He shifted uncomfortably. "We'd like to make things right, an official alliance. Your systems are indispensable to us." "That's a flattering way to describe dependency," she said. "But I'm not here for control. I'm here for culture." He blinked. "Culture?" "Yes. You can't retrofit respect into policy. It has to fly on its own." Robert exhaled. "You realize your decision cost us billions overnight." She tilted her head. "Then it cost exactly what it was worth." The PR director tried to intervene. "Miss Lewis, if we could perhaps spin this as a collaboration?" Amara cut in gently. "No need to spin truth. Let it stand upright." And plight brining from day, her assistant entered quietly, placing a document on the table. An official agreement transferring a percentage of Skyline's future profits into scholarship programs for minority women in aerospace engineering. Robert looked down, then back at her. "You're serious." "I don't bluff," Amara said. "I build." For a moment, the room was still, except for the faint hum of engines far above planes that were flying again because she had allowed them to. Robert finally extended a hand. "Then let's rebuild properly." Amara shook it firm, brief, final. "Let's start by calling it what it was," she said. "Not a delay, a recalibration." When they left, Rachel turned to her. "Do you ever regret doing it that way?" Amara looked out the window again, where sunlight caught the curve of a departing jet. "No. If the sky forgets humility, gravity reminds it." Rachel smiled softly. "And what about the people who mocked you? The passengers who laughed?" Amara's voice dropped to a whisper. "They've already learned. Sometimes silence educates faster than shame." Outside, a plane lifted off the runway, its metal wings glinting like mirrors. In their reflection, the woman who had once been told to sit in economy now stood tall in her own stratosphere. Quiet, deliberate, unstoppable. Because in her world, justice doesn't land softly, it lands precisely. Evening descended over the runway, streaking the sky with gold and ash. Amara stood by the terminal window, watching another Skyline jet ascend into the quiet air. Its silver body caught the fading light, a symbol of order rebuilt but not forgotten. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Behind her, a child pointed. "Mom, that's her! The lady from the news." The mother hesitated, then whispered, "Say thank you, honey." She made the skies safer. Amara turned slightly, meeting the girl's wide eyes. "Do you like airplanes?" The little one nodded. "I want to build one." Amara reached into her bag, pulling out a small pin shaped like a wing Aurelia's emblem. "Then start here," she said, "and when you build it, make sure everyone gets a seat." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. There, weren't you? Now, back to Amara. As the child ran off clutching the pin, Amara looked back at the sky. The engines above roared to life again, but she heard something else, the sound of correction, of balance restored. Her reflection in the glass merged with the clouds. For the first time, the world looked exactly as it should. Steady, equal, awake. And Amara Lewis, the woman once told to move to economy, had risen higher than any class could define. Because power, when held with grace, doesn't shout. It simply flies.